Welcome to Sugar and Stamps. This is our second video, and if you didn't catch last week's video on Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists, I would strongly suggest you watch that first. Otherwise, you're going to be a little bit lost in this part because I'm going to continue that discussion. Last week, I didn't get around to talking about how I felt about the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, their ideas and their strategies, so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Starting with the Federalists. Federalism, the word Federalist actually means state rights. That's the definition, which is kind of the opposite of what they were going for, which was a strong centralized government. Whereas the Anti-Federalists were all for governments being in each individual state or colony so that the states could have their own power. They believed that one government controlling everything, that the person in charge wouldn't be able to decipher the needs of each country or each state and each colony, because there's no way that they could possibly discern all of those needs for different places. America is a big place. It was a lot smaller then, but they've grown, obviously, and the things that they need in the Midwest, in the states like Kansas and Nebraska, are not the same things that they need like on the West Coast. You know, in some places they're having floods, in other places they're having droughts and famine. And so the Anti-Federalists wanted each state to have control over the needs of their population and their people. Whereas the Federalists thought that it would be a better idea and a better run country for one government to rule everything and to be in charge. If I had been around during this time, I believe I would have been a Federalist, mostly because I think that they had a pretty solid plan. They were controlling the government. Their idea was to have three branches of the government: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branch. So that way there were checks and balances between the three. They never intended for the government to have as much power as the government does nowadays. They had a lot less power. The representatives, the congressmen, and the senators, they only met about once a year for about a month, and it was not a full-time job to be a congressman or a senator. It was, you had another job, and this was more of a voluntary position. You did get paid, but only a little bit for compensation. Especially Benjamin Franklin was very opposed to paying the politicians too much money, because he thought it was a really bad idea to give someone power, and he thought it was a bad idea to give someone money, and he thought it was just an extra bad idea to give them both of those things combined into one. He was hoping that the politicians would all volunteer for the position out of loyalty to the country and to their state. But anyway, like I said, I would have considered myself a Federalist during this time because I liked their system and I liked what they were trying to get around to. They really didn't have a good example of a republic during that time because all of the major governments were monarchies. They knew that they didn't want that, but they were trying to reinvent a totally different kind of government than anyone was ever used to. I think that they were really brilliant in their ideas. However, I do not like how the Federalists went about tricking everyone in America to vote for federalism. I mentioned that last week. They were very cunning and tricky and causing the American people to panic to vote for federalism and to encourage their representatives to vote for that. So even though I think that they had a good plan and I would have voted for it during that time, I would have supported federalism. I don't agree with the way that they went about it. I think that they should have been able to stick with their solid plan without having to use, all these tricks to get about it. So that's my opinion. I wanted to toss that in here. That's why I started this video blog. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you liked last week's video as well, and please stay tuned for any more that are coming up. Thank you.